no stopping us. Fly without boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let 'em know who you are. Flying up in a bar. Wish on a star. Time to show 'em who's in charge. Call me a shooting star. Didn't even get to cross. I said I'm moving too far. Get to glass. Looking at a shooting star. Got more than a couple of people going mad. I swear they're rooting hard. Tell them I be big in the game like she went and got them breast implants. I said I'm moving too fast. Didn't even get a glance. I'm ready to eat up track like I'm seated in a restaurant. If you had swag like mine, you know it's best to flaunt. We aren't hating because you want.
Hello and welcome to the Woodshed Sports Report. My name is Conrad Wood, and we are back with another week of what has happened in the Calgary sports arena, I guess is the way I will phrase it this week. Obviously, as you can see in the title description on YouTube and below me, we are going to be talking first about the NHL playoffs, as there's already a team advanced into the conference finals. We've also got a few other stories from around the sports world, specifically Calgary. We got a couple of teams from Calgary and area involved in the playoffs or Canadian Championship, as we keep getting some Viewbot Raiders in the Twitch chat. Yes, we are live on YouTube and Twitch live right now to talk about everything is in sports, but specifically we'll be focusing on Calgary and area. Of course, as I said, we will start our show today off by discussing the playoffs that are taking place in the NHL. Of course, the Raptors, the only Canadian team eliminated from NBA playoff contention, so haven't been paying as much attention down to the sport below the 49th parallel. But let's go through it. The games over the weekend. Of course, we'll go all the way back to the 8th. There was the Montreal Canadiens taking a 5-1 victory to take down the Buffalo Sabres and head back to Montreal with that series level. It was kind of an easier game. It was Dobesh holding down the fort, a .966 save percentage, and Alex Newhook with a pair of goals to add on to Mike Matheson's first of the playoffs, and Alexander Carrier as well. Newhook goal is just a good forced turnover right at the Sabres blue line. Work it all the way back to Hudson. Gets it across to Newhook, and Newhook powers that one home. If anyone shocked Lane Hudson and Caden Gooley are being involved with the Habs, you shouldn't be. Two of the names that you should know, regardless of if you're a Habs fan, just have been absolutely phenomenal in this playoffs. And then for the Matheson goal, it's a face-off play. Looks like they're going to go across. They had Hudson set up for the one-timer. Or wasn't Hudson? Who was that they had set up for the one-timer? Got to get my my number sheet out. I was Alexandre Carrier, who looked like he was going to be set up for the one-timer, but Matheson filters it in from the blue line. It finds its way past Alexander Lyon. 2 goals in the first for the Habs, and they would pour it on from there. Alex Newhook with his second of the game again. Habs just fly the zone, get it all along the near boards, and Newhook races to the back door. A beautiful pass from Jake Evans. And the Habs go up 3-0. Sabres would try to put up a fight. It was Zach Benson once again has had an outstanding first round. Him and Josh Doan. It was a great Connor Timmins pass that filtered through to Benson, finding its way through Dobesh. And then Alexander Carrier. The high pressure play at the line forces the turnover. Had a forward racing the net, but does it all himself. Beats Lyon. And then Nick Suzuki. Good hard work again. High pressure from this Young's Habs team. Creates the turnover. And makes no mistake from center ice. 5-1 for the Canadiens de Montréal. It's really awesome seeing a Canadian team doing well. Of course, I've said with family, friends, and group chats that I don't want a team to bring the Stanley Cup north of the border until it is the Calgary Flames that are the one to do it. But I gotta say, these Habs, they're fun to watch at the very least. Like, I was kind of saying with my family on Mother's Day that I was getting bored of the playoffs because there's been a lot of one-sided series, mainly that Carolina Hurricanes absolute missile that they're building. But, you know, outside of that, it's been a good playoff. Been some close contended series. And I thought it would be the same way with another series, that it would be a blowout for the Avs, but we'll talk about that later. The other game that took place on the 8th was the Golden Knights 6, the Ducks 2. The Golden Knights took control early and often. 6 goals for the Golden Knights. Marner with the natural hat trick. Shea Theodore, Braden McNabb, and then the natural hat trick. Marner. Seneca and Kreider made it respectable, but Brett Howden with the empty net shut that one down. We'll talk about, it's too many goals to go individually in my opinion, so we'll talk about the 3 Marner's goals. First one on the power play, just kind of punishing this Ducks roster for a couple of young mistakes. Bumps all the way out, couple of legs get in the way, and Marner just is the one to eventually tap home the loose puck. Dorofeyev and Sissons get the assist. But all 9 players on the ice down below the hash marks. Not often you see that in modern hockey. I guess they did have a player skating out towards the blue line. And we'll talk about Marner's second. This one at even strength. Just great transition play. Howden breaks through neutral. Or I'm incorrect, but it eventually gets to Howden. Shea Theodore and Mitch Marner backdoor, not allowing the Ducks to get set up in their own zone. Ducks unfortunately had a couple of forwards get trapped in behind goal and then take, I'd say, not a great line change. Not that I think they're going to do much to get back to back check Mitch Marner. As he tucks that one in on the backhand, and then just good hard work from Vegas. And then right out of Gretzky's office, Marner walks forward and snaps it home. Good to see William Karlsson get his first assist of the playoffs. But yeah, Seneca and Kreider made it somewhat respectable. And it's 6-2 Vegas Knights. Vegas were up 2-1 at that point in the series. So that'll take us to Saturday, where it was a sweep for the Carolina Hurricanes, but this one is a lot more competitive than their previous sweep. Of course, they are 8-0 in the playoffs. Best start by a playoff team since the 1985 Edmonton Oilers. Philadelphia battled hard. Dan Vladar played better than most people would expect if they didn't own a Pride jersey with number 80 on it. I believed in Dan Vladar the whole time. yeah, Darth Ladar battled hard. Of course, I said I didn't know if he would get the start in Game 4 of the series. He did, but just the young firepower didn't get going enough. I think the talk about Matvei Michkov won't be going away after this series. Again, just kind of invisible, and in fact, wasn't even in the lineup for the final game. I don't know. Has anything come out? This is something I should have looked up about Matvei Michkov's health. No, but there is reports coming out from websites like Heavy talking about the future of Matvei in Philly, because he didn't have a great season, and like Rick Tocchet even opened up about it in his post playoff interviews. So it's really interesting. But man, this Carolina Hurricanes team, they are oppressive. Like in that Game 4, the Flyers only managed 17 shots, and you're not going to win a lot of hockey games in that manner. Taylor Hall, just drinking from the fountain of youth, just absolutely a dominant performance. 3 assists in Game 4. Jason Blake, a +2. And Logan Stankoven, also a +2. And this is a team that was criticized widely at the trade deadline for not making any moves. Generally, teams will add a couple of people, especially when you're playoff, to reward the players there, try and make that playoff push. But no, the Hurricanes kind of nibbled around the periphery, didn't make any big moves, believed in the squad they had. And Freddie Anderson, of course, only with an .822, but when you only see 17 shots, sometimes it's harder to lock in. But gives them enough of a backstop to get past the Flyers. It's Jason Blake with the overtime winner. As I said, Taylor Hall, absolute fountain of youth. 9 assists in this series. And Jacob Slavin gets his first assist of the season on the game-winning goal. And it's you have to feel for the Flyers, this was just that first nibble at the lure, that the youthful team is going to get better as they go on. Will it be with Dan Vladar between the posts? I know he's one of the people that, or one of the names that people are looking at in the free agent market or available goaltending market for teams like the Oilers potentially looking for a new goaltender. Will it be with giving Sam Ersson another shot at being a starter? You have to figure those are questions that will be answered over the course of the offseason for Philly, but of course, would have liked to see them get that gentleman's sweep. But yeah, their power play struggled vastly throughout the playoffs. Need to kind of address that for next season. And then we'll go to the 9th, where the Minnesota Wild get up off the mat, dropped the first 2 games in Colorado, but Kirill Kaprizov and Quinn Hughes truly with performances of the playoffs. Like Krill the Thrill, he's one of there's a reason he's called Krill the Thrill. Like, this is more what we were expecting out of this Minnesota Wild team. And hey, the Central is probably the best division in hockey. And I think there will probably be some pushback from my friends out east on that statement. But I have to think, if you're watching hockey, like the Avs, the Wild, and the Dallas Stars, all 3 teams that had a strong contention at the Stanley Cup. But yeah, it was Kirill Kaprizov and Quinn Hughes getting goals in the first for the Wild. Then Ryan Hartman with an assist to Kirill Kaprizov, his 10th of the playoffs. Nathan McKinnon gets the power play marker to draw the Avs a little bit closer, but Brock Faber and Mac Boldy shut the door. And the Wild win Game 3 on home ice. Of course, they really needed that one, as it was a massive turn from a Game 2 where the Avalanche were dominant throughout the whole thing. You saw the physicality starting to ratchet up in advantage of the Wild, and that's what you have to do, especially when you're at home. You're getting the last line change, you're getting the more favorable matchups for some of your team. You gotta use every advantage you can, and if that needs to be the physicality ramping up to get the Wild back into this one, not a bad strategy. Then we head back to Montreal as a dominant Game 3 performance last night, taking control. Cole Caulfield snaps his scoring drought with a power play goal. Alex Newhook nets 2 of his own, and special teams were the difference as this game got chippy, physical, whatever you want to call it. We'll have to see how Game 4 goes. But it really is interesting watching this young, feisty Canadiens team get going. Lane Hudson 2 assists as well to add on to the pair of goals for Newhook. And good to see that Jakub Dobesh is none the worse for wear after he gets run in the second period. Yeah, it was Beck Malenstein who ran through Jacob Dobesh. Dobesh, kind of a guy that plays on the edge of his crease and kind of a little bit crazy anyways. So interesting to see him take that hit and keep on going. Obviously that led to a bit of pushing and shoving. Jordan Greenway and Bolduc get roughing as well on the play. But yeah, just dominant performance. So Newhook from Evans, Tage Thompson from Rasmus Dahlin, who bounced back season for him. Cole Caulfield, power play goal, assist to Hudson and Demidov. Bolduc from Joel Veleno, his first assist of the playoffs. That was an even strength goal. Uri Slavkovsky gets the power play goal from Hudson and Caulfield. Rasmus Dahlin with the power play marker from Thompson and Doan. But we did also see the automatically awarded goal. You don't often see that one. A haul down on the breakaway with the net empty, so that's an automatically awarded goal. It's a rare one to see, but you see the arm go up and then point directly at the net. So Newhook gets one of the weirdest things in hockey, the automatically awarded goal to close it out. Of course, forgot about the Kirby Doc marker from Texier and Deneau. And hey, that's how you got to play on home ice. And now the Habs do have that 2-1 lead, hoping to maintain the home ice advantage. So if they can go to Buffalo with a 3-1 advantage in the series, that would be absolutely massive. Now, do I think they maybe stand much of a chance if they, for whatever of these teams, advances past taking on a well-rested Carolina Avalanche or Carolina Hurricanes team? I just was about to talk about the Avalanche. Sorry for that slip of the tongue. Do I think they have much of a chance? Not really. But hey, to use a poker euphemism, all you need is a chip and a chair. And hey, if there's a team that isn't going to be intimidated by Carolina, I think it is the Habs. Like, this is a team that might be a little young and dumb. And like, that is not something that necessarily a lot of people will view as a positive. But the fact in the matter is, if you are going to be going into a series where the odds and everyone in the stands is thinking that you don't have a chance, maybe it's what you need. Like, we have to think back to the 08 or the 04 Stanley Cup, which was, I realize now, over 12 years ago. But everyone counted the Flames out, and they had that we're going to prove you wrong mentality. Maybe that's the way the Habs have to play to have a chance as they continue on this road down the Stanley Cup Finals. But of course, that brings us to the last game where it's the Ducks even the series against Vegas as they win at home in Anaheim by a score of 4-3. It was the young guys. It's that Beckett Seneca getting that early power play goal. Assist to Killorn and Cutter Gauthier. Speaking of guys who get better the moment they get out of Philadelphia, Cutter Gauthier has been an absolute weapon for the Anaheim Ducks. Pavel Dorofeyev answers back. Assist to guess who? Mitch Marner and Jack Eichel. 11 assists on the playoffs at that point. Michael Granlund gets a goal. Assist to Joe Viel, who has been one of the better stories coming out of this Ducks squad. Brett Howden scores early in the second. Carlson and Marner with the assists. Alex Killorn assists to Cutter Gauthier. And Beckett Seneca. Interesting. Seneca has 4 goals in the playoffs. Got his first assist, a secondary assist on that power play marker. Then Ian Moore gets his first of the playoffs, assist to Cutter Gauthier and Owen Zellweger. And then Tomas Hertl draws it close with just over a minute remaining. Assist to Marner and Eichel. But the Vegas Golden Knights fall, bringing that series back to level. In terms of points and skaters, we are starting to see those guys that got eliminated in the first round starting to fall down as they can't add anymore. Leading in points, it is Mitch Marner, of course, scoring a hat trick in the playoffs. Certainly makes that a little bit easier. He leads the way with 16. He is the clubhouse leader. Then a couple of those guys from Minnesota, as I said, Kirill Kaprizov. He's in second with 14 points, 4 goals, 10 assists. Following close behind him, however, is Quinn Hughes, that 4 and 9. And then it is Jack Eichel, Taylor Hall, Nathan McKinnon, and a guy that I didn't expect to see as high in this point scoring total is Jackson Blake. But maybe that's me just not watching enough of the Carolina Hurricanes. That 22-year-old from Fargo, North Dakota, absolutely having a great playoffs after contributing 53 points in 81 games. So not necessarily a guy that a lot of people would be expecting to be that 11 points and a +7 through the 2 rounds that have been played. Matt Boldy also at 11 points out of Minnesota. And then we encounter our first person tied at that 10 points mark, Leon Draisaitl. He'll stay where that is. Troy Terry, Jackson Lacombe, Cutter Gauthier, and Leo Carlson, a quadro of Ducks, all tied at 10 points for your point leaders. Then the goaltending, we'll look at the goals against the average. And I'm absolutely not shocked at this because they're the only team that has advanced to the next round. When you look at Freddie Anderson's numbers, again, elder statesman Frederick Anderson coming in at 34 or 36 years of age, just absolutely stonewalling the way through the playoffs. A .950 save percentage, averaging a 1.12. Not bad, as they say. Artur Silov's obviously not going to improve his stats, but the goaltender's still involved. Mackenzie Blackwood breathing down Freddie's neck. Of course, he's only come in played 1 game in relief where he had a 185 and that 223. Ville Husso's been good in his relief work. He's got a 900 save percentage with a 212 goals against. Jakub Dobesh doing quite well with a .213 goals against and a .918, playing in all 10 of the games. And we talked about Dan Vladar, how he hadn't been bad, he just ran into a buzzsaw. Is statistically, at least going by goals against average, he was a top 8 in the playoffs in here at 7 with a .218 and a 922 save percentage. So not bad for Dan Vladar. Another guy that's doing well that's still involved is Alex Lyon and then Scott Wedgwood. Really is an interesting playoff going on in the NHL. Of course, only one game on the schedule tonight with the Habs continuing to, or the Hurricanes already finishing their series, so they would have played tonight, but it is just the one game out in the West. It is Colorado trying to take a 3-1 series lead home back to the Rocky Mountains, but Minnesota trying to even it up, which, hey, if you are able to hold home court, obviously it's still advantage Colorado, but if Minnesota can even it up, turn it into that best of 3, give themselves their best shot. And then tomorrow, it is Buffalo Montreal, the last game in Montreal of the first 4. Will Buffalo bounce back and be able to steal one to take it back home into that 3-game series? Or can Montreal hold home court and head to Buffalo up 3-1? And Vegas, they head back to the desert where they will take on the Ducks to see who gets the advantage in that quote-unquote best of 3. That's all for the NHL. But we're going to talk about the Canadian Championships that happened this weekend in soccer. Because we did have a couple of cup sets. Like this is a tournament that obviously has teams from all 3 levels of Canadian soccer. We had MLS teams in action in the opening weekend, which we haven't had in a long time. We obviously had the full roster of Canadian Premier League teams. And we had the champions of the Alberta Premier League, the Ontario Premier League, and the PLSQ taking the field this week. And hey, we'll talk about one of those teams heading on to a further round. We'll talk about most of them heading on to the further round. Of course, the only 2 teams with bye, or the only team with a bye into the quarterfinal is the champion of last year. That, of course, being the Vancouver Whitecaps. #SaveTheCaps. We'll talk about that on Wednesday, because that is what I want to have our discussion on Wildcard Wednesday, is the rumored move and who can come in and save those Caps. We'll talk about that on Wednesday. Because if you haven't heard, Whitecaps threatening to move after, hey, they don't own BC Place. They don't get enough revenue from BC Place, according to the owners. So that team's been for sale for a couple of years, and a formidable bidder out of Las Vegas has come through. We'll talk about that all on Wednesday. But let's talk about the first game of this first round, and that is where the first cup set takes place at BMO Field. A battered Toronto FC playing with backups from the Toronto FC2 Academy, backups with some youth players. They get battered around by the CPL champions, Atletico Ottawa. 3-1 is your final. Atletico Ottawa just really had the number of this young roster for TFC. And like, Atletico Ottawa have not been doing well in the Canadian Premier League. In fact, has kind of been in shambles. But it is Bolu Tabla. He gets his hat trick. And DeAndre Kerr opened the scoring for TFC. You thought, hey, this could just be another MLS team rolling over the CPL, but the fact that they, as I said, had maybe one first team center back, only starting very few of their regular starters due to injuries, like, it's pretty bad for TFC. But you would have liked to see even, you gotta think, Toronto FC, even their juniors have higher pedigree than anyone in the CPL. And like, this is a team that is rapidly falling out of playoff places after they lose to Inter Miami. But like looking at their lineup, DeAndre Kerr, Jonathan Osorio, Walker Zimmerman, Etienne Jr., and the left back Franklin, kind of your only real MLS quality players. But that's not because they weren't really eligible. Like, yes, you had Raheem Edwards on the bench, Malik Henry as well. Yeah, it's somewhat understandable for TFC, because just so many injuries for that squad. But we'll see. But yeah, good for Atletico Ottawa. They had effectively their starting 11 for most of their matches. Of course, Bolu Tabla, the former CF Montréal striker, took full advantage of his opportunities. Dude's a dog. Obviously, had played with Atletico Ottawa, then goes off on loan, and comes back to Ottawa for the last 2 years. Hasn't had any goals in the Premier League, but shows up in that big cup match. Obviously, TFC versus CF Montreal, a big MLS rivalry. So probably a little bit of fire there from his days playing at Stade Saputo. But then let's talk about the next match that took place in the Canadian Championship, as this was not close. But it was one of these matches where you didn't expect it to be necessarily, as it was Club de Foot Montréal against the Calgary Blizzard. And if you've ever looked at the Calgary Blizzard lineup in the Alberta Premier League, it is essentially the BT, or where the Calgary Dinos go to play for the summer, with Mo Elgander, who is a former Cavalry FC draft pick. And it was kind of weird. I'm usually used to seeing Mo Elgander with the armband on for this Blizzard squad, but of course it was one of the Plenzik brothers in Marco Plenzik, the striker, the older of the two, up front, who wore the armband for this match. And hey, they were playing against one of the off-season's best training partners in Victor Latourie on the other side of the match. Hey, and they'll be playing off against another Latourie, I believe, this week, and Victor's younger brother. But I digress. Yeah, 5-0 for a team that is U Sports players in the off-season, and a couple semi-pro players. Probably is what was to be expected from this squad. Even if it was a B squad from CF Montreal, which it wasn't really. Like, there were some guys who came off a little bit earlier, including Victor Latourie, and Daniel Rios, their designated international player, came off a little bit earlier than he maybe would have expected. But hey, an opportunity of a lifetime for a lot of these guys who have probably dreamed about or put themselves in on FIFA and played against CF Montreal or for CF Montreal. So huge opportunity there for the young Calgarians. It was interesting to see Sebastian Breza get the start. Their backup keeper getting to play against Calgary Blizzard. Seen him in the Canadian Premier League as well in the past. But yeah, kind of exactly what you expected from a professional team with a multi-million-dollar budget taking on a youth club, the top of the pyramid for the Alberta Premier League. Of course, they were the Premier League champions last year, getting this opportunity. Just simply too many levels up the pyramid. You could have hoped for the cup set, but it was not to be. And then the next match that was also played this week, it was SC Supra du Quebec taking on Woodbridge SC. Woodbridge, the champions of the Ontario Premier League. It was a 3-0 finish there. And maybe this one was a little bit of a shock, considering a lot of these players that are playing for Supra du Quebec were playing in the PLSQ, the Quebec Premier League equivalent, last year. D&D Nabsy takes the penalty after a player taken down in the box. However, the answer came in the 29th minute. Jacob Spreezy gets it level. Then it is some of these guys who have been in the CPL for a long time. Abdikar Sissoko gets the goal to put them in the lead. And then David Chouanier, enemy of Calgarians, sports fans, gets the deciding goal, puts it to bed. Good effort from this Ontario Premier League squad. But of course, we were kind of joking in a lot of the group chats that 3 was the minimum goals needed in a CPL round 1 matchup. Then it will be Forge FC, again, one of the best teams in the CPL year after year, despite the rivalry with Cavalry FC. They take on the HFX Wanderers, home of former Cavalry FC keeper Marco Carducci. And despite Marco not stopping a penalty, Brian Wright missed one, but just gets absolutely the net filled up behind him. Tristan Borges with a brace. Atom Baptiste and Brian Wright scores the 4-0 goal. I watched bits and pieces of this match, and it was a dreadful effort from Halifax Wanderers, who are looking to change their reputation in the Canadian Premier League. They're trying to get their way into the playoffs, but going to need to do a lot better than they did today, or on the weekend. I don't think this is a team that can play a back 3, regardless of if you know you need to go score goals on Forge. But Tristan Borges and Brian White, like, there's a reason that Borges is one of the best players in the CPL. And Kyle Becker finally gets another 30-minute run out as he returns from his testicular cancer diagnosis and surgery. As loath as I am to give him any credit for anything, shouldn't have to end your career to cancer, and cancer sucks. Then, of course, it was Cavalry FC heading out to take on Pacific FC back at Starlight Stadium. It'd been a couple games played at home, but actually in the city of Victoria for Pacific FC. And hey, if rumors are to be believed, the potential ownership groups looking to take over there want to move them into Victoria anyways. So, hey, could it be one of the last matches at Starlight forever? Of course, Rugby Canada's home turf. It was a Dan Klomp header off a beautiful cross from Brad Camden Fewo for the initial goal. That was all we had until the 78th minute, where Pacific FC answer on the counter. As we did see Bradley Camden go down with an injury just before this. It's kind of a second effort by the Pacific players off of a corner that did lead to that goal. Then Ali Musi gets subbed off after he has a little bit of a professional foul. But Toby Warshevsky draws a penalty, scores it to take the or rather, it was not Warshevsky that drew the penalty. It was Gote and Tingy, but it was Toby putting that one home off the penalty spot. And Michael Baldissimo gets the assist from Gote and Tingy to put it to bed after the 90th minute. Cavalry FC advance forward. They have a date leveled with Vancouver Whitecaps. Of course, this first round was best of one. Round 2, the quarterfinals and the semifinals, are a home and home fixture. So, hey, we get to see who will be continuing on after that one. And then the final game, final pair of games, were once again that CPL versus PLSQ / League One provincial team, and Inter Toronto FC, rebrand number 3, fall. Despite having 71% of possession to CS Saint Laurent, the amateur league coming out of Quebec, they've had a couple of cup sets that they've led. And hey, this is a roster that was widely promoted to the CPL with Montreal Supra. But they take home the win off an early goal, a counter-attacking goal by Younes Shibani. And despite pressure coming from the team playing out of York, they couldn't get it done, including 9 minutes of extra time. And this is another case where I think you look at the roster that York United 9 FC of Toronto put onto the ice. Like, you're not starting Thomas Skubalik, who scored the pair of goals, and after he scored the goal, celebrated with his realtor business card. One of the best celebrations I think I've ever seen. Did not start your goal-scoring striker. Didn't start Gabby Bitar or Oswaldo Leon as well. Maybe just an underestimation of the potential for this CS Saint Laurent squad. Really interesting. So, Inter Toronto, who are looking to erase the memory of them being York 9 and York United, bounced out early once again. And the Eagles of Vancouver FC take on Langley United. The Battle of Langley, as Vancouver FC does play in Langley. So you have to think some of these guys are familiar with each other through training. And it is former Cavalry FC defender Tom Field with a nifty backheel deflection scores the first goal off the Marcelo Polisi shot. And just after that, it's Nicholas Mosqueda, who is starting to return to form, gets the second goal at the 87th minute. Again, a valiant effort from Langley United. Got it to the 75th minute before conceding. Like, they were in this match for long stretches of time. And I think if they had played against someone like Pacific, played against someone like York, they'd probably advance in the next round, but lose to Vancouver FC despite peppering Callum Irving with shots. It's showing there isn't really that big delta, especially for leagues like League One BC, which was Langley FC, like the PLSQ, and Ontario, where it is more on the semi-pro side rather than U Sports / NCAA summer leagues. There is a lot of talent there that can challenge some of these CPL teams, and hey, maybe even challenge a team like Inter or like TFC in their current state, because that would have been the true cup set if TFC had been paired up against one of these Premier League provincial squads and dropped the way they did. Like, that would have been absolute shambles. But hey, it wasn't to be, and we got our 2 cup sets regardless. So your matchups that will be coming in the quarterfinal rounds will be Vancouver Whitecaps against Cavalry FC. As I said, they will start that with a match at Atco Field, and then it will be a match not at BC Place, because due to the World Cup, FIFA has the rights to that stadium for a week after the World Cup. So that will head out to, not to Starlight Stadium, I can't remember the name of the field. Let me see if I can figure out if it's online. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit an advantage for Cavalry FC. They haven't listed. the name of the stadium. But yeah, like, um, it looks like it will be Willoughby Community. It looks like. So it'll be interesting. The Whitecaps enter the tournament not playing at home, at their true home. Of course, still playing in Vancouver, unlike when Cavalry had to go play at Starlight Stadium when they took on both of their opponents in the CONCACAF Championships. So close enough to home still, but not truly the home field advantage that they would have want. There will be CS Saint Laurent against Forge FC. FC Supra du Quebec will be facing off against Atletico Ottawa. And that is where we will... Oh, and then... No, that is your 4 matchups. Vancouver FC obviously playing CF Montréal. That one is just a little bit of airfare going on in that series. But you know what? I think we will call it there for our first segment. We will head on to our first intermission. When we return, it will be talking about the trade of Matt Wilkinson to the San Francisco Giants. Will the Tugboat get to see Maccabi Cove this season? We'll talk about that and a little bit about the Western Hockey League draft when we return here on the Woodshed Sports Report. Welcome back to the Woodshed Sports Report. My name is Conrad Wood. And as I said, let's talk about the Tugboat trade as Matt Tugboat Wilkinson, the former standout Okotoks Dawgs, and gotta say, one of the best prospects to come out of Canadian baseball in a while, has been traded to the San Francisco Giants out of a team known for their pitching depth in the Cleveland Guardians. And not an inconsequential trade, as it also included a two-time Gold Glover in Patrick Bailey, one of the best defensive catchers in baseball. And hey, when it's you and a competitive balance round A pick for a guy that has a pretty high upside in Matt Wilkinson, it's pretty interesting. Of course, the Giants looking to get younger, and the Giants playoff window is not this year. But if you can bring in a guy with as much spin rate as Matt Wilkinson has displayed throughout his entire career, like, that is a guy that could be seen as a way to get to the show. Buster Posey with the San Francisco Chronicle had nothing but good things to say about Matt Wilkinson. He really liked the deception of that invisible, that 3,000 approximate RPM fastball that Wilkinson does, because Wilkinson at the Western Canadian Baseball League level was overpowering hitters, but he isn't doing that in Double A or in High A that he was in last year. 92 is not fast in the MLB anymore. Fast is Mason Miller throwing 104. Like, when you're comparing Matt Wilkinson's four-seam fastball to the changeup for a guy like Mason Miller in terms of speed, that's where we're at. But the Giants have kind of gone in this way now that they're without their Gold Glover. And the guys that they're promoting, like, they want command and deception. They got a lot of lefties in that roster and rotation. And they're looking for guys that are deceptive, and that is exactly what Matt's Invisible is. And hey, having Buster Posey, one of the best catchers of all time, potentially, as your MLB manager, the guy that just brought you in, probably is a vote of confidence for Matt. Like, obviously, you're in a system in Cleveland that has Eric Saborski, has other Canadians, so you had that level of comfort. But going to, number one, a team that has showed they want you to the point where they're willing to trade away what a lot of people consider the best defensive catcher in baseball for, that in its own is a huge vote of confidence. So, and if we look at this year, Matt Wilkinson has been dominating in Double A this year. As we've talked about him in the past, not such a great year at High A last year, but has certainly had that bounce back after returning to Okotoks in the offseason, returning to work in Southern Alberta. Comes back with a 1.59 ERA, 36 Ks in 28.1 innings. Excellent whip, and hey, you got to remember, he did strike out MLB All-Star Cal Raleigh and Bryce Harper, one of the longtime vets, one of the greats of modern baseball. As this season goes on, you're likely going to see him head to the AAA affiliate of the Giants, which I actually don't know who that is. Who is the San Francisco Giants AAA affiliate? So it's the Sacramento River Cats. So hey, Tugboat, Cats and dogs, baby. Cats and dogs. I might have to buy a River Cats hat. But the fact of the matter is, if his strikeout rate continues to be where it's at in AA for probably a couple more weeks, obviously going to be changing squads, like, you have to consider that AAA Sacramento may be in his future. And hey, like, if you just continue that, there is that potential to see the Tugboat maybe later in the season when the Giants are farther away from contention. Maybe that will be where Matt leads. You have to hope that he could maybe make that MLB debut late this year, September. But who knows? And who knows where he is, because he's back to being a starter in AA. But obviously, Team Canada used him as a late innings reliever, using that Invisiball to incredibly good effect. Like, struck out multiple guys from multiple teams during that World Baseball Classic. So you have to wonder if that change of role is what Buster Posey is seeing from Tugboat. But you'll have to wait and see, because it truly is becoming one of the feel-good stories to come out of Okotoks. Obviously, there's a couple other guys that have come in through Okotoks and made MLB careers. Or WCBL in general, obviously. Tristan Peters, Eric Saborski, as we talked about. There's lots of guys who come through the WCBL and through Okotoks specifically, being one of the better programs, that do go on to have these careers, but it's not often you have a guy that was as with the Dawgs as long have this. And you're starting to see kind of a string of them now. Because obviously it's not just Tugboat. We talked last week about Eric Hartman, and talking about him, like, he has a weighted runs created plus that is top 10 in all of minor league baseball. And of course, that's talking high A. We're not talking about guys like Cooper Ingle with apologies, I've got the hiccups now. Like Cooper Ingle, who's in AAA, Zach Geloff in AAA with the A's system. Obviously, he's in high A. Might make that move to AA soon if he continues just absolutely raking. But there are lots of guys that are exciting prospects to come check out. And, like, a couple of the guys versus, like, when you look at his numbers, let's talk raw numbers and compare apples to apples. Let's just look at high A batters. Like, shout out to Braves Today, who have put together a graphic over on X. We're looking at just qualified high A hitters, so guys that have hit a minimum level. He has 41 hits. Where does that rank? That's first. Runs produced, 33. Where does that rank? Or, that's not... I don't know what that stat is, but I apologize. RBI, 30 RBI? Runs individually, not runs batted in. We got you. He's first in that. RBI, third with 30. 12 home runs, third as well. Batting average? Is he just hitting for power? Is he just... No. He's 7th overall with a .331 batting average. Second in slugging with a .710. And third in on-base percentage. Nuts when you compare him to the rest of high A. If we want to compare him to the whole of the minor league baseball with 50 plus plate appearances and are younger than 21. So that narrows it down a little bit. But hits, he's 4th. Runs, 2nd. RBI, 5th. Still set and moves up to 2nd in home runs. 13th in average and 1st in slugging. Like, Eric Hartman and Tugboat, like, these are going to be stars. And the fact that you got to watch them develop through this Okotoks Dawgs program is nothing short of astounding. So if you haven't been out to Okotoks, make a day of it. Come out to any number of their games, whether that be a Tuesday night against the the Energy City Cactus Rats, or whether you come out to one of the major events like Canada Day. Drive down there, stop it at Covet Sips and Sweets, get yourself a dirty soda for while you're in and around Okotoks. Go and see the beautiful town of Okotoks. Have a walk, go sit by the river, come to the game, watch the next generation of not just Western League stars, but the potential future stars of baseball. Like, the Dawgs, it's nuts. Like, you think that this program, it's known that it's a beautiful stadium. Siemens Stadium, one of the best places to watch a ball game. But a lot of people think that, oh, they're just going to go to NCAA. And we're just watching kids who are not going to go any further. Nope. Like, Eric Hartman's doing great. A former Okotoks Dawgs alumni is lighting it up for AA Amarillo in Gavin Logan. Like, it's incredible. Like, these players are really incredible. And yeah, as I said, Siemens Stadium is unreal. Come join us. It's a beautiful, beautiful stadium. A ton of very talented young men. It's gonna be a fun one this year as well. Because yeah, remember I mentioned Gavin Logan? 3 homers for AA Amarillo just last night, or 2 nights ago. So let's continue this thought. Let's talk about baseball more, because the Dawgs Academy just had Dawgs Black just win the Mother's Day tournament against other top U18 programs, because it's truly been a year to remember for this Dawgs Black program. A program that has gone down to the States, taken on these top teams at the perfect game tournaments. Like, it's truly becoming one of the most valuable programs for baseball, not just in Canada, but for everywhere that plays baseball. And more guys coming out of this program are playing pro ball, whether that be in North America, whether that's heading overseas, whether that's heading down to Mexico. Like, it truly is one of the hidden gems we have in this province. And we are just over 2 weeks away from game number 1. And in fact, not this Saturday, but next Saturday is their Fan Fest. So come on out, meet some of the players, meet the Dawgs Black players. Go and find out how you can watch them in their road to Okotoks as they seek to take home the National U18 trophy. Follow them in their journey down in the perfect games. Because, folks, it is truly one of, if not the best things you can do in this province on a beautiful Western Canadian summer afternoon. And hey, like, guys like Tugboat, Gavin Logan, like, it's all awesome. Support all of these players. Like, even if guys like Ricardo Sanchez, like, he's lighting it up in the NCAA, you have to hope that he'll probably make the Pioneer League next year. Come support him in his last year. Guys like Connor Croson, like, regardless of where these guys end up, post NCAA, post Dawgs, come support them. Come support amazing local baseball I look to see out there this summer. But let's transition on to the Western Hockey League draft. It is kind of that old school, we're just going to keep drafting until everyone says no. So the last round of the draft this year was the 13th round. And as we all know, it's cyclical in the Western League. Teams go through the draft, get to the top, compete for the WHL championship, and then it kind of cycles back down. Of course, Lethbridge technically would have had the first overall pick, but they traded it to the Kelowna Rockets, and the Rockets select maybe one of the most electric U15 players we've seen in quite a while. Of course, I'm talking about Madden Deneau. This season in U15, 149 points in just 34 games. No, you heard me right. Just shy of 150 points in 65 games. Oh yeah, and he also missed some games in U15 because he got called up to the U18 squad in Red Deer, where in 3 games, 6 points, playing in as a super underager. Like, it's gross how good he is. Like, I'm not one to usually say that until I see it. Some of these guys come through in to the Circle K Classic where I see them with my own eyes. But man, like, what an incredible pick, what an incredible player. Like, this guy is going to be something special coming out of the Red Deer program. And then it was Wenatchee selecting Parker McMillan. Of course, he's out of BC, out of Vancouver. I saw him at the Brick Invitational when I did the season there. And like, this is a player that I've known since he was 11, obviously. But yeah, another incredible player out of Yale Hockey Academy. So playing in that academy program, 91 points in 25 games, and 4 games in the U18 program, 2 points, a goal and assist through 4 games, and even came up to join them in the playoffs. So obviously a good pick there. A guy that I got closer accounted to was the Vancouver Giants at number 4, selecting Braden Jugnoff. I've seen a lot of his family come through in that Circle K Classic with Okanagan Hockey Academy. He came in this year with the Okanagan Rockets U18 program, and again, this is a U15 player. 6 points in 4 games at the Circle K this year. And then at the TELUS Cup, the national championships for U18, he goes and plays up and finishes with 11 points. Like, kid's unreal, and we'll begin to stay a little bit closer to home. Of course, here we're probably wondering, hey, when did the Calgary Hitmen select? They did not have a first round selection. So they actually, because they know that Eric 2 likely not going to return, going into the goaltending system, selecting Owen Ryan. Ryan out of St. Thomas Academy, an American citizen out of White Bear Lake, White Bear Lake, Montana. Right, because he's Western. He'd have to be out of the Western states. But yeah, puts up in with St. Thomas Academy in the U.S. Hockey School, puts up a 134 with a 949 save percentage. Pretty good for the Calgary Hitmen, considering that was one of their very few picks in this draft. Of course, they do have 2 second round picks, and they go with Ethan Mattersdorfer with their second selection. out of the Lethbridge Golden Hawks program. Saw him. He's actually a guy that went and played with CCM Chicago at that Brick Invitational, and a former Northern Alberta Extreme project. Instead, this year it's deciding to play at home. 88 points in 34 regular season games, and had an assist in his one game he played up with the U17 program down there. And in the playoffs, 27 points, 11 goals, and 6 assists with that Golden Hawks program, where he was actually the captain. A couple other names. Charlie Fox. I have to wonder if that's a relative of Ethan Fox, the former Flames draft pick. No, he is not. But out of Austin, Texas. So heading from the Texas of the States to the Canadian Texas. Then in round 5, selecting Cohen Braunberger. And I believe, was that their last pick? Because I think they might have started bowing out. No. They were one of the first teams to start saying, we're good, we don't need to pick anyone else. But it was Ethan Beldy, or Stephen Beldy, another American player selected by the Hitmen. Joey Stewart, another American. And hey, we have to realize the Calgary Hitmen are going to be better and better, because they were one of the younger teams in the Western League this year. Yeah, they were one of the first teams to bow out. Of course, the final pick selected at 293, technically, to the Kelowna Rockets, David Ring. But another interesting pick with some Calgary links is in round 3 to the Medicine Hat Tigers, Shane Regier. Regier. Who might his dad... Oh, yeah, that's Robin Regier's son, the Calgary North Star 14. And, of course, who could forget about Richie Regier? But unlike his father, I do believe he is a defenseman, shoots right-handed, 15 points in 29 games. Also racked up the PIMS 46 penalty minutes. An assist in the playoffs as well. Actually got called up to serve some time with the U17 team in their playoffs as well. But yeah, truly an interesting Bantam draft, or I guess they're calling it the WHL Prospects Draft now. I'm trying to see, I know there was another couple of NHL links in the selections, including a player that I saw play at the Max Midget tournament, because his dad was coaching. The former Detroit Junior Red Wing and son of goaltending legend Chris Osgood, Max Osgood, was selected in the first round, 21st overall by the Medicine Hat Tigers. So yeah, it's going to be interesting with the WHL and how it goes this season. For all of your thoughts on it, go on, give it a check out. And obviously we talked a little bit about the situation with Cami Kepke and the statement that the Tigers had, or the Vancouver Giants staff member had given. Was a $5,000 fine issued in that. So we do have to shout out to Cami Kepke and the hard work that she has done. Now let's look at what is the Max Midget. Okay, Max Midget, now known as the Circle K Classic, is the top U18 tournament in, I'll call it the world, as I think it is. It is a tournament that is played here in Calgary every Boxing, or day after Boxing Day now. So through the new year. It is where the top teams from across North America and sometimes including invitational international teams. So I look at that because it is truly the best on best competition. Of course, as I was growing up, it was called the Max Midget, but now it is known as the Circle K Classic. Obviously, Max no longer exists. So yeah, I call it both because when I was growing up, it was known as that. But now that I'm one of the commentators for that tournament, I should know better to call it the Circle K Classic. Of course, the question, what is Max Midget, coming from WPN over on YouTube. And of course, my buddy Sean over on Twitch knew that it was the Circle K Classic. And what I guess I can explain what the brick tournament is as well. It's what they fondly refer to as the what was the nickname? The Little League World Series of Hockey is what they call it. It's a big U11 tournament. Takes place up in Edmonton. I got to do it for a year. Fun tournament. They play games at the in the middle of the West Edmonton Mall. So that's actually a fun little tournament too, if you're ever up in Edmonton over the summer. But yeah, we got a little bit more to talk about. Not necessarily minor sports, but we'll talk APL before I talk about those other stories. As the Alberta Premier League Week 2 did take place this week. Of course, Calgary Blizzard's not taking place yet because they had their games up in or out in Montreal. And we'll talk about the women's side first, where the Calgary Wild, they continue to roll on, taking out the powerhouse Calgary Foothills. This game took place at the Maxwell Center. Of course, Foothills opened the scoring with Avril Jameson, who has been one of those names. If you've watched this league for a long time, you'll recognize that name. But it was Ojong Talbot with the brace, and Maya Emberley got the goals for this very, very young squad out of the Calgary Wild program. Good to see that they are continuing their strides, because last year, as I said, they were not competitive to the point where they were actually, the games were named exhibitions when teams took on the Calgary Wild last year. So good to see that they are beginning to be more competitive. But they, as I said, they have some names that Calgary women's soccer fans know. Sarah Dilling, of course, not under 23, I don't believe, but she is the third string keeper for the Wild, playing on that Alberta Premier League side. Reese Kincaid has been a known quantity for a long time. Clara Monk, I think, was Izzy playing on the other side? No, Izzy Monk was not playing on the other side. Monk family's been around soccer forever. And it was another new head coach for the Wild U23s in Andy Karashi, listed as the head coach this week. Yeah, Lee Tucker and Colin McKay need to figure it out, because, as I said, this is a perennial powerhouse in the Calgary Foothills women, not able to put it together. Jaden Berg on this squad, Grace Masala, Izzy De Palma off the starters bench, and the goal-scoring machine, Layla Taraf, on the bench. So you have to figure there will be good things coming for this Foothills women's side, just not in week number 2. Edmonton BTB women pick up the win over the Calgary Villains women. That game up in Edmonton, I do believe. Yeah, this one was in Calgary at the newly constructed Villains Dome. Tamara Jurisic, again, one of those Edmontonians who scores for fun, leads the way, gets the final goal as well. Tara Simino gets the game winner for BTB, and Isabelle Lachance with the goal for the Villains. Villains, hey, I'm happy. They've got that new dome, bringing in new infrastructure to the Calgary area. Always good to see that come through. Would like to see the on-field product be a little bit more competitive in women's and men's. And Calgary United fall the Calgary Rangers. Kateronia McFadden, Latifa Bellingham, Eileen Ryu, and Sydney Danielskowitz get it going for the Rangers. And then for Calgary United, it was Maza. Again, this Calgary United, they're still trying to get up to that level. I thought they really took some steps in the later half of the season. You have to hope that continues. Annalisa Galvez is going to be a huge piece for them moving forward. Came off the bench in this one. Again, we'll just got to keep seeing the evolutions from that squad. And again, as I said, Grace Moore, perennial Calgary top level footballer for the Rangers. A huge piece for them. And there also was the St. Albert women taking on Calgary Blizzard women. So the women did play for the Blizzards this week. That was a 2-2 draw up at St. Albert. St. Albert scores 2 goals early, but Brooke Batty and Raina Marani get it back for the Blizzard. Again, I think Brooklyn Colvin, McKenna Walker. Yeah, this is, again, just like the men's side, a lot of Calgary Dinos on this squad for Blizzard. Now let's go over to the men's side, where it was, I do believe, it was 4 matches, where Calgary United and Calgary Rangers played to a 1-1 draw. That one was at the Weber Athletic Park, which is actually, I've heard, quite a nice field. Austin Minty gets the goal early on, but a goal from a player simply known as Eric for Calgary Rangers gets that one tied up. Hyunsu Ryu, again, he's been playing up in Edmonton for a while. He is a fire starter of a player. But the one thing I would love from this Ranger squad, give me full names so I know who I'm talking about when I talk about you on this squad. Austin Minty, he's been known. He's around with I think he was with Mount Royal. Calgary United get their draw on the men's side, as I said, programs that is starting to build. Cavalry FC 2, again, average age of that Cavalry FC 2 squad, under 17 this week. Unable to pick up the win over Calgary Foothills, who leading the way for them. Fraser Aird, the former Cavalry FC right back, scored off a penalty, or off a dead ball. The only goal scored in this game. Again, there's a couple of guys that you might know on Calgary Foothills if you have ever watched Cavalry FC. Marcus Kaiser was a draft pick with Cavalry back in, I believe that was the 2021 draft. Eman Adokene, Emmanuel, it was a draft pick this year of Cavalry FC. David Peppel is the younger brother of Abraham Peppel. Alex Laturi, younger brother of Victor Laturi. Channon Chanda, the goal-scoring machine for the Mount Royal University, also has played for Cavalry. So a pretty veteran squad there for Calgary Foothills. And as I said, a average age of under 17 for Chase Jackhart and co. in Cavalry FC 2. And Edmonton BTB, as I say, they're going to be one of the squads to watch in the Alberta Premier League, taking all of the talent from that Edmonton. Rilanda Drizzy, Tao Hein with the brace, and Cheda Dubé with the goal in the 90th minute. Lead BTB past the Calgary Villains. Philip Asibil, again, the former Turkish international, or Tunisian player who's played in Tunisia and in France professionally. But as I said, this is just the Edmonton All-Star team playing over for Edmonton BTB. Interesting, though, it was Siddle who gets the start between the pipes for BTB. Gets the start over Steven Borson. But yeah, as I said, all-star Edmonton team for BTB. And then on Sunday, it was Calgary Blizzard taking home. Oh, interesting. I didn't think they played this week, but maybe this was their tune-up. It was the tune-up before they headed out to Montreal. However, it did not have Mo Gander in the lineup, it doesn't look like. So, hey, maybe he's not playing in the APL. Just came on for their game against Montreal. Marco Plenzik, one of the two Plenzik brothers, scoring the only goal in that game. It does look like St. Albert has also picked up some of the previous talent playing at Edmonton Scottish, just looking down their lineup. But that's all for minor sports this week. Of course, next week we will see the start of the Junior A campaigns in lacrosse. I saw some video footage from some preseason action, and it looks like it got feisty in the box lacrosse. So I'm going to actually try and get one of my friends on who watches a lot more box lacrosse than I do to potentially come in and talk box lacrosse. So hopefully we will have that happening next week. But I am going to take it off a little bit early today. A little bit less playoff action. A Little League World Series preview. I could certainly do that because that's coming up too, isn't it? It starts... When is the first game? Oh, it's not till the start of August. We'll get the Little League World Series preview as that gets closer to us, my friend Sean. I know that's your favorite event of all year. Hey, Sean, maybe you should come out. I'll give you a ride out to Okotoks and you can come watch the U18 championships for Canada Baseball. Hey, I'm offering the free ride. But for myself, Conrad Wood, hopefully you enjoyed this show. I know these ones on Monday are a little bit shorter on things to do now that the hockey season is done. And I'm trying to focus Flames to just the Friday show. So we'll talk a little bit more about what to expect from them in the off season. Can we expect live reports from Williamsport? If I got advertising revenue on this channel and me flying the rainbow pride flag in my social media didn't flag Border Patrol to harass me in the US, I would certainly go to Williamsport and give live reports. But unfortunately, not at that level quite yet. Maybe next year. But for me at the Woodshed Sports Report, thank you so much for tuning in. On Monday, we will be back again at 1 p.m. Mountain on Wednesday for Wildcard Wednesday, where, as I said, we'll talk the Save the Caps movement and what would have to be done to potentially keep the team there. I'm also trying to get a guest for that show. So we will see when we return on Wednesday on the Woodshed Sports Report.